Um, One other thing, like I wanted to bring up, there were a few members that reached out asking to push the time a little bit more forward. Sorry, a little bit back, like around 9:30 p.m. their UK time. So, um,
This week, thank you for bringing this up. This week, we're not talking about it. I am going through a change. Let me see what my situation is. A week or two from now, we can revisit this. Um, like I mentioned that I'm going to Bangladesh, so it's a change already for me, and I want to see how I adapt to it. And also, we have to consider US folks. What is the plan for them, right? You know, the reason we have it at 5:30 is a lot of people finish their work at 5 o'clock, so they have the half an hour to get home, get to where they need to be to join the call. So a lot of things goes into it. First, we need to understand how many committed people from US, and then how many committed people from UK. For that to get this understanding, we need at least 2 more weeks. Then we can talk. So hope that's okay. Okay, well then I didn't mean to cut you short, but I'm just sorry, Ashfaq, I didn't mean to cut you short, but this is my thought process. There's a lot of moving part right now. We need some more time to kind of evaluate current situation to make a move.
thank you, Mike. I just thought I should bring this up. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and start, guys. So we had a big week last week, talked about SDLC. So are there any questions about SDLC? Do we know everything about SDLC? Do we not know a lot of things about SDLC? Okay, I think someone, I think a sister asked about a group study. So we haven't formed the team yet. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do group studies. So this link that is shared with you guys on WhatsApp main group, it is available. This is a meeting room. This is consider it, it's a physical room. So when you want to do a group study, anyone just, shoot a message, say, hey guys, can we do a group study on such day? And whoever is available, they will join and support you in group study. And also some of you, whatever the topic we cover, let's say today, you have a week to do group study and do your own work. So if we're covering something today, you should have enough idea to talk about it, even without a leader, without a mentor. You should be able to talk about it. But whenever you say, let's say person A says, hey guys, let's do a group study on Monday or Tuesday, 5:30. And, just ask everybody, if you have time, please join. You will find 10, 15, 20 people joining. And you guys can, together as a group, you can start talking about it. And you'll find some of us joining on those calls as well, whether Rajubai, Ashfaq, or me, or Mamun, or somebody else. So we'll support you if you have any questions or any other leads from previous batch. So what I'm trying to say, just because we don't have a structure in place now should not stop you from doing group studies. Do your group studies, just call, send a note in the meeting and start doing group studies. And we should be, in a week or so, we should be able to have, I'll make the team today. Today, after this call, I'll make the team and then we'll go through some modifications and see how we can finalize it. Cool. So SDLC, can we spend some time talking about SDLC, guys? A lot of you hopefully spend some time talking about SDLC. Do you guys have any questions? First, let's go over questions if you have any. Anyone? So if you don't have any questions, can someone explain? Who wants to take a moment to explain SDLC workflow? We have to do it. Someone please, because this is important. I'll just present the diagram and then you can probably. Okay, so this should help you, right? If you can see that SDLC diagram, who wants to give it a shot? I don't want to be the bad guy picking names. But if I have to file it, then brother, please go ahead.
Thank you, brother. So the SDLC lifecycle or the software development lifecycle to me basically means it's a itinerary or a to-do list or an organization of how a software application is developed from start to finish. And then, is that me, guys? Essentially from start to finish and all the processes in between. The SDLC lifecycle begins with the user requirement phase. At this stage, a business analyst will sit down with the soliciting company and understand all the requirements that they need to put into the application or program that they're creating. The next step after that is the planning phase, where the user requirements are then converted into a technical document where it lists from the BA's point of view, or what the BA has gathered from the client, what's needed, and it's technically outlined on how it should be created or composed. And then the next phase after that is the design phase, where the application or program is built, or rather outlined, and then the development phase, where it's basically the code is written and the application is built. And then the next stage after that is where we come in, system testing phase, where we test the newly developed program to make sure there are no bugs, and if there are, we outline those bugs. Once all the bugs and everything are resolved, the next stage is the UAT phase, which is basically a phase where the client tests the software with a third party to verify the system that was created is functioning as intended. The next phase would be the production phase, where the application or program is released to the public. And then the cutover and maintenance phase is an ongoing, maintenance of the application. For example, when the new Chrome comes out, they want to make sure that the application works with the new Chrome, Firefox, whatever it is. As those web browser updated, they want to make sure that the program is consistently working with the new updates. On the outside, there's the configuration phase, which is essentially documentation of all the steps, starting from the user requirement phase all the way to the end. And it's basically, you could say, an instruction manual, quote unquote, of everything that was done from start to finish.
Thank you, brother. I think this was very good. As long as we understand from requirement phase to production phase, that's fine. We don't really need cutover, maintenance, and configuration phase. These are the things, knowledge purpose, no one really would talk about it. But I think, brother, you have the proper understanding. Thank you. Okay. We have brother Humayun. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
So,
My understanding of the SDLC is it's the process used by software industries to design, develop, and to test software products. The main aim for this is to meet the user's expectation and requirement. So the first step, or the first phase, user requirement phase, involves the user or the client's requirements, includes the structure, the plan, and basically the set of rules that they are looking in their system. Next, in the planning phase, the developers plan and create the technical document, SRS, system required specifications, and the BA creates the SRS, which is the software requirement documentation. The design phase would be the phase after, wherein the designers begin to design the plan and the architecture based on the SRS. The development phase would be basically where the developers start the construction of the actual software and the actual creation of the software. They would write the codes down. They would write the codes based on the SRS and compile the code as a build, known as the build. Then would be the development phase, which is the developers start the construction of the actual software. And sorry, I think I did that one already. System testing phase. Did I skip that one? No. So system testing phase. In this phase, the system will undergo the internal testing as well as external testing, which would be us, the quality assurance. You know, when I say internal, I mean the developers will actually do their own testing as well. And
Quick question. So you're talking about system testing phase here, right?
yeah,
And you're also saying developers will do their own testing. So where do you think developers do their own testing, and development phase or system testing phase?
I believe they do it in system testing phase, along with the quality assurance testing. Only because the testing would be done after it's developed, but I could be wrong, but this is my assumption.
Yeah. So anyone has any opinion on that? Anyone else wants to?
So basically in the development phase, right? So it's the developers do all the testing in the development phase, and the two testing that they do is a unit integration, right? So we have to keep that in mind. We don't really have to worry about unit integration. That's up to the developers. But then that gets after they're doing they finish developing everything, they give it to us QAs in the system testing phase. That's where we do our testing, right? And after, if we find any bugs or anything, we send it back to developers as well. And they redo their program and everything, and they do the unit integration testing once again.
But thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Niaz. But hold on one second. So Niaz is from last batch. Anyone else from last batch? Do you guys agree with Niaz, or you think he's lying? Anyone else is here from the last batch? Razin or anyone else?
Bye. I think I'm the only one.
Good one. Wow.
Yeah.
This is nice. Cool. So yeah, he is right. So what happens is in development phase, developers, they do their coding. So once they're done their coding, they perform internal testing within the development phase. And it's called unit and integration. You don't need to worry about it now. We'll learn about it later on. So system testing phase belongs to QA only. We sit there, we own it, and we perform our testing then. And when we say perform testing, we have a process in place to perform testing. So we call it SDLC process, software testing lifecycle. So we start our testing process in system testing phase. But please carry on.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and update my notes that I have to make sure I correct that. Yeah, so you know, the system testing phase includes our system testing process, which is different from the actual system testing phase itself. Not different, but like it's its own thing, like you mentioned. The next would be the user acceptance phase. This is where the system is returned back to the client for their acceptance testing. With the approval, they basically to get the product after it goes through all the phases. Then the deployment production phase would be when the software is available to everyone. The user is basically going live with their system, and the cutover phase, you know, involves user manual support, basically training for the client from the developers. It's usually in, I believe, a document form as well. And the maintenance phase involves adding new features, modifying any existing ones, any changes that need to be made, including fixing issues. When that when anything is goes through the maintenance phase, I believe it starts from phase 1 all over again, which kind of goes through all those phases again. And then the CM library, configuration management library, is the phase. Well, it's not a phase, but like it is a phase, but it's where all the documentations, the final versions of documentation are stored.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. This was good. First time explaining, I think it was very good. Someone else wanted to say something? Brother Mamun, did you have anything? Okay, so I'll just mute you all. Now, anyone else wants to give it a shot? Let's do it this way. So when it comes to user requirement phase, can you give me 3 keywords for user requirement phase? What are the 3 things you can point out from user requirement phase?
So we can say BA, business analyst, and the user requirement URS.
URS. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the
Yeah.
third?
And the client.
Exactly. So 3 keywords. We have clients, we have URS, we have BA. And once you have 3 keywords, you can put them kind of together. Clients, what are they doing? Coming up with the requirement, which is a URS, and doing what? Having meetings, discussion with BA. Okay? These are the 3 keywords. Thank you, brother. Someone else, planning phase. Give me 3 keywords from planning phase.
I can go by.
Please go ahead.
So from planning phase is I got business analyst and analysis, requirement documents, and tactical document called SRS, is that, which is system requirements specification.
Correct. So BA, URS, and SRS. So BA is business analyst converting URS to SRS, basically, right? So URS is the plain document, user requirement document. URS, user requirement specification, converting that into SRS, which is system requirement specification, a little bit more technical document. Thank you. Design phase. Can someone give me keywords from design phase?
Designer will start creating the software to design based on SRS. So it's main software system requirement specification. They all go based on SRS. The designer.
So you have your designer here, you have your SRS, and then design document. These are the 3 keywords here, right?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, brother. Development phase.
Would you say coding, unit testing, integration testing, and a build maybe?
Perfect. More than enough. Thank you. Testing phase. One more person.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
The testing phase aim is analyze and understand the software requirements from SRS, create test plan, create test cases.
Nice. You guys are very good. Thanks for putting the hard work.
Thank you.
UAT phase. What do we know about UAT phase? Some keywords for UAT phase.
UAT phase is user acceptance testing phase. This is a team that is hired by the client, and they do their own testing. And if everything is good in this phase, then it goes to the production phase. If they find anything wrong, then it goes back to the development phase.
Perfect. Thank you so much. production phase. This should be easy, guys.
Everyone can have access to it. So it's a called production or deployment phase.
So
So after when you guys test finishing, everything is good, and it goes to deployment phase. So everybody can have access to it.
So production meaning the application is live, everyone can have access to it and use it, right?
Yes.
Cool. This should wrap up our SDLC. I think this was very smooth. Do you guys have any further questions, concerns, anything that you're not clear about SDLC?
I'm sorry, but can we go over the development phase again?
Development phase. Who wants to explain development phase? Anyone? Development phase.
I can go ahead.
Yeah.
So this is where the developers do coding, and then once the coding's done, they compile all the coding to create a build, and then they also do a unit testing and integration testing.
Yeah, thank you. To make it easier for you to understand, so development is where actual work gets done. And these are the guys who are doing actual coding. The code is written in Java, C++, or Python, or any type of language. And they do the actual work of the coding to build an application. And once they do that, they're done with their coding, they will perform some small tests internally. It's called unit and integration to ensure that this application is working fine. And once that is done, they will send it to testing phase, then UAT, then production. Hopefully it's clear now. We'll talk more about it. We'll perform these exercises.
Thank you.
Come within this team and environment. Yes, Brother Rizal, you have a question?
Assalamu alaikum. I just wanted to know, do we have to learn coding to be a software tester?
No, sir. No.
We don't have to. Okay, great. Thank you.
You don't have to, but if you want to learn, that's a very good thing.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, 2 questions. The acronym UAT, what does it stand for? And can someone explain that phase again as well, please?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear you properly. Can you repeat that?
Yes, the UAT phase, what does that stand for? And what goes on in this phase again?
All right, who wants to explain this? Explain this in a detail so that everybody understands.
So UAT is a user acceptance testing phase, where clients bring their own quality people or quality expert to test the software or the application. If there are some bugs or some errors, they can send back to the development phase.
Thank you. So basically, user gives their requirement here in this phase, and then they are gone. They are going on vacation or something. We don't see them, right? This is the conventional way, but then we're going to learn about advanced way in a while. So conventional way, like, they would give their requirement and that's it, they're done. And then we come to a closed door. You can see borders here, right? Closed door borders, like their clients are not here, you see? It's gated, they don't have access. So internally here, we perform our planning, we perform our designing, we perform our developing, then testing. Once our testing is done, then we communicate to the client saying, hey, everything is done. We tell these people, everything is done. Come take your software. And we're going to push it out of this window, this door, whatever it is. So they would say, hold on, I want to verify. You verified, that's fine. Before I make the final payment, I want to re-verify. They'll come back here with their own. They don't trust us anymore at that point because, we're getting paid from them, right? We just want money. That's the mentality, right? So they'll be like, okay, that's fine. We're going to re-verify everything you did to make sure that it works fine. So they'll bring third-party team or their own team, whatever it is they have in place. There is a third party known as IVNV team, independent verification and validation team. But don't worry about this wording. Just know that this team is known as UAT, User Acceptance Testing Team. So they come in and perform their testing and report back to the client. If these guys say, okay, everything looks good, they report back to these people. And if this everything looks good, that's it. This application goes to production right here. If they find any issues and it makes sense and it's within the requirement that was given, this will go back to development phase right here. And we will redo, we will not entirely redo, we'll fix what they have caught, whatever the issue they have caught, or whatever the requirement changes that they're asking for, we will perform that. Hopefully.
Thank you.
You know. Anything else, guys? About to move on from SDLC. So you have 3 seconds.
Why configuration phase is inside the box? Why it's not coming after maintenance phase? Why it is arrowed from the planning phase?
Configuration phase, right?
Yes.
So this deals with documentation that are saved internally to the team, to the IT team, right? And you see it's within the box, right? That's where us, the IT team, we are sitting inside this house or building or whatever you call it. So this belongs to us. This is our documentation. We work off those documentation. These are our records. So this is not accessible externally. These are internal documentation.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add on to that, if I can help clarify. And I forgot who was speaking, the young lady that was speaking. The only documentations that the user would be able to access from this configuration phase would be the cutover phase documentation, if that's correct.
These are user training, user manual that would be purposely created for users and users. Yeah, and those will be accessible to them. Correct.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
Sorry, this question is a bit off topic, but someone was curious, like where do you the resumes, which platform are you using to market them?
When you're applying for the job?
Yeah.
Here you're building a software product. This has nothing to do with resume. This has absolutely nothing. This is when you, after getting the job, you are within the application building team. This is once you have the job and everything. This is nowhere near, right? It's totally different thing.
Yeah, I know. It's just like it's totally off topic. It's like, where do you so IT solution helps us with the resume, right? So where do those resumes get marketed, on which platform?
Oh man, you're talking about, okay, outside of this.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah,
No,
it's off topic.
no problem. You're saying, where do we market it, right?
Yeah.
All over the world, wherever you want to work. Well, if you're in the US, you're marketing in the US. So you are not limited to any jurisdictions. If you are in US, you can work anywhere in the US. If you're in the UK, you can work anywhere in the UK. If you want to work remote, you target remote. You want to be working on site, you target on site. So it depends on how and where you want to work.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure. Cool. Anything related to SDLC? All right, going once, twice, 3. Done. Okay, moving on. Let's move on from SDLC. This is very crucial. Hope everybody has clear understanding of SDLC. If not, of course, you continue to learn, do your group studies, understand this concept so that you are good to go. Now let's go close this. Moving on to post SDLC. So after SDLC, right, we have, let me minimize this. Okay. So part 3, we're still in part 3. After SDLC, we are talking about different methodology within that SDLC. So SDLC is the entire workflow, how you build a software product. But within that, they have created multiple workflows, multiple methodologies in terms of building an application. So if you can see here, there are waterfall methodologies. So there are waterfall methodologies, there are V model, there are agile methodologies, incremental, spiral, visual. So I think 7 of them I have listed here, but first 3 are the ones that everybody is using. Not everybody. First 3 are the ones that we're going to talk about. And first, waterfall. Okay, so waterfall, you're going to find a lot of similarities with SDLC workflow. So SDLC, waterfall was created after SDLC, very similar workflow, same phases and everything. If you learn SDLC, you know waterfall already. Now, when it comes to V model is something is usually in the US used by government project and whatnot. Very rare, very, very rarely they would use V model. Waterfall is the second most popular one being used. And then the main one is being used agile. So right now, everyone is using either agile or going to use agile, going toward agile, or they're using hybrid. Hybrid meaning waterfall, mixer of waterfall and agile. So these are the 3 that we're going to learn. We're going to talk about V model. I've been in the industry 15 plus years, never seen V model. So I don't worry about it. Just know what is V model. Waterfall, we're going to learn. We're going to spend so much time on agile. Agile is something, it's very, very, very important. And then you need to learn agile. There's so much to learn from agile. So let's talk a little bit about waterfall. What is waterfall methodology? Waterfall model is a sequential development methodology where everything happens in a sequence. It's like water flow goes in one flow, one direction. So if you look at SDLC and waterfall, you would see very similarities between them. So we have analysis phase, requirement analysis phase. It is the same thing or similar thing. I'm going to put them to side by side so you can see the differences or the similarities. Okay, so if you see waterfall here and SDLC here. So in waterfall, you can see analysis phase. This is nothing but the requirement phase here, right? Requirement and analysis phase, right? Then planning phase is similar thing as requirement specification phase. Design phase is obviously design, same thing. Development phase, here we have development phase. Testing phase, the same thing as here. And then implementation phase is the production phase. That's it. Implementation phase is a production phase. So some people call it production phase, some people call it implementation phase or deployment phase, things like this. It depends, but it all means the same. So what happens in waterfall methodology, right? The main thing to remember when a requirement is given in waterfall, I'm going to expand it so we can talk more about it here. So in waterfall, when the requirement is given and finalized, there's no changes to be made. Client cannot come and say, okay, I have given a requirement. Now I'm going to change the requirement to modify something. They cannot do that. So back in the day, everybody used waterfall. Waterfall was a big thing. So let's say, I can give you one example. In 2014, I was working for Obamacare project for state of Maryland. So you can imagine how many people, how many millions of people living in Maryland. and everybody needed a system to support them for their healthcare needs. So they can come in, they can sign up for their insurance, they can maintain it, they can make their payment, they can search for their doctors, make appointments, all of these activities that they needed. So they needed a platform to create, to do all of this, right? So we created that application back in 2014 for state of Maryland Obamacare project. Now 14 and 15. So back then we did waterfall, entirely was waterfall. So we get the requirement from the client. We never seen the client. The requirement was big. They physically printed, like, talk about 10, 12 years ago, they physically printed all of this requirement. It was more than 1,000 pieces. They gave me the full document in my hand. I was not able to carry it. I asked like 3 other guys. I was QA lead there. We had 50 QAs, 50 QA engineers. So you can imagine how big the team was, 200 developers and so many people. It's a big building. It was like a village full of us doing the actual work. And the timeline was only 3 months. So 3 months prior to that, client gave us, the state of Maryland gave us the requirement. We want this application and then we obviously agreed on that with the money and terms and the timeline and everything, right? Now all of us got the requirement and that's it. They don't have any access, right? So we get that requirement, we finalize it, we design it, we developed it, we tested, we implemented it. And after implementation, they would come and visit and see it. So this was the entire waterfall process. And in waterfall, there is no limitation when it comes to like how big your team can be or how often you make there is no, I guess there is only one deployment at the end, but we can make internal deployment, but no one has to know. But okay, ignore this. This is going to confuse you. So the process of waterfall was working fine back in the days, right? It was like one big project, one big requirement, and everything starts from the top-down analysis of the requirement. So when we get the requirement, everybody's analyzing the requirement. When we're planning and finalizing requirement, converting it, same document gets shared with everyone. We all doing the same thing. Designing, when designer are designing, obviously we don't design, they're designing, but once that is done, it gets shared to us and we are all reviewing it, seeing where is the gap? Do we have any questions? Do we understand? We're getting into the meetings all about design document, right? Once that is done, right, developers are doing their code developments and they're finishing up with their development. And once that is done, they would send it to us for testing. While they're developing, we do some test planning and test case creation, things like this. While we are testing, we are finding bugs. So everybody is after how to fix the bug, what is the priority of the bug, understanding the bug, and how to support each other, things like this. So that's how it works. So once we're done with everything, we send out report we have completed this many test cases, this many bugs, this many open, this many closed, different priority, severity, and all kind of things. So when everything is done, right, we are done and send it to the production, and that's where they see it. Obviously, there is a UAT phase within the testing phase where so it's not separated out here, but there is a UAT phase here. They would do their UAT, and we would support them in UAT. And how do we support them? So we build that application, and we would give them all the test cases that we have in place. We'll give them test data meaning if they need any credentials, right, to log into the application, or if there are any physical test data requires for them to test, we would support them. Also, we will give them a demo of the application so they understand how to navigate through the application. So anything and everything UAT tester needs, so we would provide the support. And then once we go through the UAT, we'll go through final deployment to production, and that's where it goes live. Someone has hand raised.
Yes, Kader bhai, when we find any kind of bug in testing, since it is waterfall going in one direction. So we send it back, or how we deal with that?
We log the bug gets fixed. Application stays with you, but the bug gets fixed. They would make another deployment to give you the new code.
So the bug get fixed in the testing phase or development?
Developers are fixing the bugs while we are testing. So you
Okay.
can say development and testing. So development happens, they're done, but they support us in testing. How do they support us? By fixing the bugs that we log. There are support in each phases, right? Even though we're doing our own task, but definitely there are supports in all phases, right? When the requirement gets finalized, we provide input. Hey, this requirement has gaps. These are the outstanding item needs to be rectified. Questions, answers, things like this.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So do you guys understand SDLC? Any questions? Sorry, not SDLC, waterfall. What is waterfall? Why we need waterfall when we have SDLC? You know, SDLC is like a broader concept, like entire way of building a software product. But within that SDLC, we have different workflow. People choose to build the software differently. And one of which is waterfall. Good. Thumbs up, guys.
Yes.
Cool. So moving on. V model. So let's talk about V model. What is V model? V model is a framework. V stands for verification and validation. Conventional V model represent the development phase in one form of V shape. The right side of the V represent testing, where the system validation validated against the specification defined on the left side. So let's look at the diagram. So here, I personally never seen a V model workflow in an actual environment, nor do I know anybody's working in it. But just for your understanding, right? What is V model? V is like, it's a V-shaped model. Verification is happening in one side, validation in another side. So verification is dealing with a lot of pre-steps, right? Defining requirements, verifying requirement, and the actual testing is happening on the right side. Design happening on the left side, and then system testing is happening on the right-hand side. Architecture, design, and integration test, model design, low-level design, unit test, coding or implementation. I wouldn't spend too much time here, but you know, this is available to you guys. Feel free to look at it. So basically, a requirement is being defined here. Acceptance testing is being done here. So this is pretty much process of verification, and this is validation. Validation is the result of the verification, basically. Notice how it is connected one with another. Integration test. Don't worry so much about this. No one will ask you about V model, but if they do it, you know, actual coding happens here and implementation, and basically one side verification and another side validation. Yeah, don't stress about V model. That's just the bottom line. Okay. Okay, to move on, or you guys want to spend more time with V model?
Move on.
Cool. So verification, validation, look through verification, validation. What is verification? What is validation? Validation, they did it vice versa. To me, like if I want to simplify something, right, you know, to me, what I think validation is a pre-step of verification. Verification is like when you are requesting something, and validation is the actual result of it, actual outcome of it. I think this other document has a lot more examples. The one that is shared with you guys. I think all of the documents are shared. So if you go here, post this, there are a bunch of examples here. Look into it. It's not You don't need to memorize it. All you need is the understanding of verification and validation. Then final things that we're going to touch is agile. And today, I'm not going to spend too much time on agile because agile is a very big concept. We probably would spend 3 weeks in agile. But what I'm going to tell you and show you some differences is how we have a diagram of waterfall. Okay, so there's a difference between waterfall and agile. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about agile. Agile is, you guys saw waterfall. Waterfall was one big project, goes one direction. Whereas agile is totally opposite. Agile goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They don't build a big application together. They break a big application into small pieces and break it down, make it more easy to build and understand and deliver. Waterfall, the client is never involved, but in agile, clients with you every single day. They sit next to you, they talk to you, they have access to you, they have access to all of your documentation, your code, your meetings, your notes, everything. So client here is a big deal. Here, a client known as a stakeholder. We call them as a stakeholder. Agile has their own terminology. Agile has their own rules. Agile has their own direction. Everything is different in agile. And as we learn more about agile, you will understand why people are falling in love with agile and why every company is adopting agile. Agile is very, very, very user-friendly. And we build a good product usually with agile than waterfall. And the reason is very simple, right? You know, IT industry is changing rapidly. We don't have like every month or every other month we have next version coming up, right? We don't have 6 months to build the application and then 6 months later it's already old concept. We don't need it or we don't want it or we need to change something, right? Like, you know, waterfall 6 months duration is a standard thing. You give an order and you get it back 6 months later, maybe 6 months later, your taste is not the same. You don't want this product anymore. So it doesn't work with the companies anymore, the clients or the business. They don't want to go with waterfall anymore. So that's why agile is very, very good. It's iterative. It's being built in different iteration. They're breaking it down into small pieces to make it user friendly. And the client is always with you. So by definition, agile methodology is the iterative development methodology, making a software product part by part. Make one part, then test it and send it to production, then go back and build next part and so on. So this is how we build a agile product. So if I give you guys an example of agile versus waterfall. So let's say we have an application. I think we can demo our application. Let's see. So we have application that looks like this. So this is admin portal. I think I want to show you guys. Dashboard. All right, let me go home. Yeah. So if I click on home, right? So this is one application, right? If we were to build this application using waterfall, the requirement would be defined for each and every functionality beginning of the product. Like if you look at here, the home page, entirety of the home page, entire functionality would be defined. Our team, everything would be defined in a piece of paper, obviously soft copy. Every single thing would be defined 100%. All courses, everything you see here would be defined, designed, and everything, right? So you get the idea, right? So right before we get into working on this product, everything will be predefined, timeline would be set, money would be handled, client goes to vacation, done. 6 months later, whatever the timeline we set, they will come back and test it. They will test it and accept it. That's waterfall. Now, when it comes to agile, we will build a piece of it. Let's just say we're just going to build just the login page. just the login page. How you log in, like when you log out, right? So let's log out. Come on, we can do it. Okay. So we want to log out, right? So not the application log out. So first iteration. So first iteration could be 1 week or 2 weeks. So first iteration, we can say like, all right, we're going to design this. We're going to have this landing page, and we're just going to build the login page with the password, username, and reset password or anything on everything you see on this page. We're going to say, first 2 weeks, we're going to work on this and we're going to build this. And we're going to give it to the client. Say, okay, you go enjoy, work, test it, play with it, you enjoy. While they're enjoying the homepage, right? Next week, or whatever the iteration we define. So in Agile, we need to define our iteration. An iteration is either is 2 weeks or 1 week. What is that iteration? That iteration would be, we're going to say every week or every 2 weeks, whatever is the defined window, we're going to give you something workable. Guys, if you don't need to talk, please mute. So if you don't, so the iteration that we define, right, we're going to say every iteration, we're going to give you something workable, something that you can use to work and see and navigate through, right? So first iteration, we said we're going to give you the homepage. Next iteration, we're going to give you something else. But when I say something else, it may not be the entire next page, which is dashboard. I'm having a hard time navigating through. Okay, home. Okay, I have to go to home. Fine. All right. So next iteration, we're obviously we cannot build everything, all of this here. We're going to say next iteration, we're going to give you home page that will have certain functionality, whatever it is, maybe this top part of it, middle part of it, and then iteration after we're going to do the rest and so on, right? And then iteration after we're going to do the other page and so on. So this is Agile. Do you see the difference? Are you able to compare? Are you guys confused, or you're like you already know?
Oh, I'm confused. Can you explain this again? Like,
Yeah, which part? Are you confused with Agile or Waterfall or both?
oh, both.
Oh man, that's hard work. I have to repeat everything. So Waterfall is a big project where everything is done in one shot. How do I explain? So if we work in Waterfall, use for this project, like every single requirement has to be defined prior to start working on this project. Every single thing. In a paper, soft copy, hard copy, whatever it is, so obviously soft copy. Everything has to be defined. How do you want your login page to be? How do you want your home page to be? How do you want your next 4 or 5 pages, whatever it is? And every single thing is discussed and given to the IT company. In this requirement phase for Waterfall, it takes a long time, months of effort from both parties. It takes a lot of time because this is the only chance to get it right. You need to define everything prior to it. Once the requirement is finalized, no changes can be made. It's done, right? And then we built that application using the workflow that I was showing you guys before, the Waterfall workflow. Let's just say this one, right? Requirement phase, requirement is given, then we go to planning, design, and all of this. But while we are working, client is not there. The user is not there. They don't have access. They get access here. So all I'm saying, right, we said build an IT solution page. We got the entire requirement, and then we start working on it. And then 6 months later, we deliver it. Done. No changes. They cannot make changes while we're developing. 6 months later, if they say, okay, I want to make further changes, there would be new budget, it would be new timeline, and so on. That's waterfall. When it comes to agile, if you look at the diagram, right, we have stakeholders sitting with you. So we're going to go over iteration 1, 0, construction, iteration, release, and production next week. But I just want to give you a little idea about what is waterfall and what is agile. So in agile, we said we make it in small iterations, part by part. So when it comes to agile, we're going to say that so we're going to say in agile, okay, we're gonna work, and you're gonna sit next to us, you're gonna see us working. So if you see something that you don't like, we can change it on the spot. That is the purpose of agile, right? So you're working in agile, client is sitting next to you within the same room. Right now we're in COVID, so nobody's sitting next to each other, but they're in our calls. We have daily calls. So in the calls, we will show them like the progress. If they don't like something, instantly they could request for a change, and we could make the change. So this is why agile is very, very good, right? But how would we give them something workable within that time frame, right? We would break down the requirement like I was showing you before, right? For this entire application, we're not going to build everything together. We're just going to build a small piece, even if it's a login page. We're going to make a login page and say, okay, in 1 week, we're going to build a login page so you can have access to it. You can see it, you can use it, you can access it, right? The next week, we can say we can target to build the home page, and we can try to build the home page and send it to them. We can build a week after or iteration after next page, and so on. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. I know it's new concept. We're going to talk about agile so much because there's so much to learn from on agile. This is just the beginning. We have 3 more weeks at least on agile, and you're going to be surprised how much we have to learn on agile. So depending on which direction we go, I just want to give you a glimpse of agile. We're not going to finish agile, or we're not going to be expert in agile now. It's going to take us time. I think first what we're going to learn is testing process. What is the testing process like? What is SDLC means? How do we test? What does a tester do? But before we get into it, I just wanted to give you, first we learn SDLC, how we build a software product. And within that SDLC, we learn different methodologies, right? Waterfall, V, and then agile. These are the 3 main ways we build a software product, and we're going to learn about them much deeper a bit later. But next week onward, I think we're going to start about how, as a QA, what exactly you do. How do you create your testing? How do you execute your testing? How do you document them? And all of these things, we're going to learn about them. Don't worry about it. We still have a lot of time left. The brother asked me, where does QA gets involved in agile? We start from construction iteration. This is where we start our testing. Construction iteration or release iteration. These 2 places where we spend a lot of time. Iteration -1, this is purely for management. Iteration 0 is also high level people, leads and managers. People like, testers do not get involved. In construction iteration, we get involved. Release iteration, we get involved. Production iteration, we get involved. So we'll talk more about it. Don't worry about it. But for now, just understand what this is, right? SDLC. It's the main thing that you need to learn. Within that SDLC, there are different flows, right? Different workflow, like waterfall methodology, V model, agile. So we talked about waterfall. Waterfall is very similar to SDLC, right? And then we talked about V model, which is, verification and validation, nothing more than that. Then it comes to agile, which is this iterative development methodology. Everything happens part by part, and we have a client sitting with us. So we can communicate with them, and we understand. So we can understand their need better. We can give them better software product. We can get clarity when we need things like this. Okay, I think someone mentioned explain, please explain analysis and the requirement phase. So now this is the requirement phase. Oh, you're talking about. So this is same thing as waterfall, right? And so here you're not wrong if you say the analysis phase, if you say is the requirement phase. Analysis phase is the requirement phase. This planning phase is requirement specification phase. This could easily be renamed as planning phase. This could be easily renamed as requirement phase. No matter of fact, I will do it to not confuse you guys, and you're fine. You can say it. Analysis phase is the user requirement phase. Planning phase is the requirement specification phase. No, it says the same thing. It means same thing. It's just wording differently. Design phase, development phase, testing, and deployment phase. These are named differently, but it all means the same thing. I'll just change it so that it's easier. Hopefully it makes sense. Any questions, guys? Any other questions? I think we covered a lot today, so I'm going to stop recording. If you guys have any question, feel free.